Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 39 of the Memo KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast. Today's a unique episode. Obviously, you see I'm sitting next to Kenny Brooks, but also today's questions I have for you, Kenny, are all from our listeners.
Oh, wow.
Not from me, from our listeners. So, wanted to be able to talk to you before Big Blue Madness, see what they had to ask for you, right? So just to start, because we're talking about, previewing Big Blue Madness, your entrance last year.
Yeah.
People want to know, were you just born with the swag or like, was it just given to you? Like, how does that work?
You know what? That was off the cuff. We didn't plan for it. It was kind of like last minute. Got the last minute drip, maybe like 2 days before the entrance. We just talked about it maybe for about 30 minutes, and it just happened. It was a great production put on by people who surrounded me and made sure I looked okay. They told me that's all I had to do was walk out and don't trip. So it was successful. But I tell you what, it was a lot of fun. It was a great way to kick off. Just being indoctrinated into Big Blue Madness and Big Blue Nation. So it was a lot of fun.
And speaking of that, how excited are you for this year's Madness? We've heard from you, like I think UK put out a statement and they're like, it's going to be bigger and bolder than ever. How excited are you for this year's Madness?
We've got a nice surprise lined up, and I'm looking forward to executing it. But I think it's going to be very well received, and we're excited. Everyone kind of knows what to expect year two, and we're going to look forward to it, embrace it a little bit more, and really enjoy it.
Right after that comes the blue-white game. What are you kind of hoping to see from your team in that setting?
Honestly, Phoenix, that whole scenario is about the fans, giving them an opportunity to come out, watch our young ladies go out and perform, see them for the first time on the year, and obviously what we're doing here in practice, we see it all, every day. So it just gives them an opportunity to showcase their talent in a different way. Big Blue Madness, it's more drills and just getting involved with their personalities. The next weekend with the blue-white scrimmage is all about, watching their skill set. And so it's really largely for the fans.
Speaking of practice, we've heard, I think Amelia Hassett was on a radio show, and she said, at the end of practice, we break it down 1, 2, 3, SEC champs.
Yeah.
I imagine you wouldn't be saying that if you didn't believe it was possible. So, what is it about your team that you think this year you can really go compete for an SEC championship?
If you're not confident saying it, you're not going to be able to execute it. And everywhere I've been, whether it was in the CAA when I was at James Madison, we would say CAA champs, and we spoke it into existence. When we were in the ACC, I said ACC champs, and we spoke it into existence. And so in order for you to be a champion, you got to believe that you can be a champion, and you got to work like it being a champion. Before practice, SEC champs. So we understand what the goal is for the day. So you have to go out and practice like that. You're not going to be SEC champs by just walking out on the floor and saying, hey, let's be SEC champs. It's going to take a lot of grit, determination, and consistency. So we make sure we say it before, we make sure we say it afterwards, because, we feel like we have a group that can compete for a SEC championship, but it's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of togetherness, and we want to make sure we're speaking it into existence.
You look at this year's team, and there's a lot of offensive talent, but I think, I kind of think back to last year. At this point in time, you're still trying to work on defense a little bit. You think about, all the different pieces having to come together playing your system. You have returners, which obviously helps, but would you say you're kind of in that same boat where, last year's team ended up being pretty solid defensively, but do you think you're still in that same boat this year? It's like, all right, we're still trying to work on that?
Yeah, I think last year's team was underrated as far as their defensive prowess, so to speak. I guess it is prowess if you led the country in block shots.
Right. Yeah.
That is defense, and so I just don't think that it's the the definition of what the casual fan would say is defense. A lot of casual fans will say, oh, you got to press, you got to get steals in order to be a great defensive team. That's not us. We're going to guard the paint. We're going to, be very, very selective in how we play you, and we're going to try to funnel you to certain areas where we know that's going to be difficult for you, and then we're going to contest your shot and then try to be the best defensive rebounding team in the country. And that's one of the things that really set our defense apart. It might not look the part, but when you go in the lane and you got Clara Strack and Tiani Key contesting shots, it makes it very difficult for people. And we rely on each other. Our defense, we play a pack line defense, and we're going to try to funnel you to areas, as I mentioned before, and try to get help in those areas. Because one-on-one, I don't know if we have a player on our team that would win a one-on-one contest because of their defense. And but collectively, playing together as a unit, they're pretty good. And so we're just trying to figure each other out. And obviously with the addition of Tony Morgan, Jordan Obi, and everybody into our lineups, we're trying to figure, everyone's strengths, everyone's weaknesses, so we can play off on it. And I think that's what really helped us last year become a good defensive team because we understood each other, understood each other's weaknesses and strengths.
It's a much deeper team this year. I think you can say like you can go into the bench a little bit further. If the season started today, how far of a rotation do you think you could run?
Well, I think you could go 9 or 10. I really feel that. And there's still a lot of competition out there, and a lot of minutes to be had, and for someone to seize those minutes. And it's all about who can really blend in and really help the team get better. It's not about individuals, and everybody brings a different skill set to the table. And some are good shooters, some might be a better defensive player, and those minutes will be depicted by the scene, the scenario that's needed. But we have choices, and we have options, and so that's something that you really need at this level to be successful. So I'm excited about it. Looking forward to the continued competition until the season starts.
Foul trouble was kind of an issue last year, and I think about Tiani and Clara Strack specifically. How do you combat that this season?
You know what? We are planning for it. We're trying to make sure we're putting people in positions or trying to keep them out of harm's way sometimes. But also we're asking a big ask of them. We're asking them to be smarter, without losing their aggression. And so my players who in the past who we really needed on the floor and we couldn't really play as well without them, they learned how to live to play another play. And sometimes instead of being aggressive when you have 2 fouls and going for a block that you might or you might not get, you just try to contest it without fouling so that we can go play another play with you on the floor. And that's something that Tiani and Clara are going to have to learn how to do. And I think they're capable of doing that. They're a year older. They understand that their presence is more important than a block shot. And so they're going to have to learn how to play without fouling in order for us to be successful.
Walk me through the scenario. Let's say Clara Strack fouls out. You slide Tiani Key down to the 5. How much does the offense change? Do you maybe go 5 out or in that scenario maybe?
We're going to be 5 out with Clara. Clara's mobility and her versatility allows us to do things that aren't traditional. She's not a back-to-the-basket post player, although she does have some back-to-the-basket moves. But to pigeonhole her and say that she's just a back-to-the-basket player takes away from everything else that she does so well, so uniquely for a center in today's game. And so if she does get in foul trouble, we'll slide Tiani down in that situation. And I don't think that we will miss a beat with Tiani there and then maybe a Jordan Obi at the 4 or Amelia Hassett at the 4. We're still going to be tall and long relatively in those positions. But of course, we don't want Clara to get in foul trouble. So, but we do have a plan for it, and vice versa, and Tiani is that way too. But I don't think we'll have to switch it up as much because of Clara and Tiani's versatility.
I'd like to think about how like Georgia last year, for example, could really go off script, play make when you needed her in desperation moments. This year, obviously, you don't have Georgia. Is that kind of you think you can rely on one player? 10 seconds left in the game. You think you have one player? Do you think it's a kind of a by committee effort this year?
I think it's more of a by committee. Obviously, Georgia was so dynamic, and I hope Kentucky fans realize what a special treat they had to watch her play for her senior year. And it was her best year that she's ever had in college, and she had so much put on her. But when you have a player like that, you're going to put the ball in their hands. It's kind of like a la Steve Nash back in the day. You might be too young to know Steve Nash.
I know some Steve Nash.
Okay, and his dominance, and fun fact, when Georgia got to me, I told her we were going to pattern her game after Steve Nash, and so we kept the ball in her hands quite a bit, and we relied on her quite a bit to either make a shot or to make a play for someone else. This year, I think we have more weapons. Obviously Toni Morgan, an all-ACC performer, has the ability to have the ball in her hands and not only create for herself, but create for others. But I think you're going to see Jordan Obi be able to do that. I think you're going to see a little bit more of Tiani Key, being able to come off ball screen and create for herself or for others. And then don't be surprised if we do it for Clara Strack. Asia Boone has the ability to do that. So we're a little bit more versatile in that aspect where we have more bodies that can do that. So it will be depicted by how the game is flowing, who's hot, who's doing certain things. But we definitely have more weapons that are capable of doing that.
Hey, Steve Nash, two-time NBA MVP, so
Yes,
not a bad person to model someone's game after.
Exactly.
Kind of along those same lines, how do you replace the scoring punch that Deja Lawrence brought last year?
You know what? I think more importantly is how do we replace Deja's leadership? You know, that is something that you know is going to be very hard to do. And obviously Deja came into her own at the beginning of the year. She was still trying to find herself. I remember conversations and early on in the non-conference when she really didn't know, you know, what to do. But then she got into a groove as SEC play started. And Deja Lawrence is one of my favorite players that I've ever coached in my life, even though it was only, you know, for 8-10 months I was able to do so. So replacing her leadership is probably gonna be a little bit more difficult than replacing her scoring. Although she was like a little mid-range assassin and she, you know, shot the three as well as she ever shot it, playing professionally right now, and you know, very, very proud of her. But you know, she touched me in a way that was just unbelievable. You know, she's someone that I'll continue to stay in contact with for the rest of my life because she impacted this program in a way, and I'll forever be indebted to her and Georgia for their leadership in setting the foundation for us in year one. I couldn't have asked for any better leadership. And now Tiani and Clara, you know, they're able to, you know, play off of that, learn from that, and then they'll continue to set the tone for players to come to be able to understand what it means to be a Kentucky Wildcat.
I'm going to throw in a question because you brought that up. You know, we've seen Georgia and Deja come back, you know, even before Deja went overseas, like she stuck around. Georgia was back for a practice for some time. How important is it, you know, to kind of have like your players from the past kind of come back for the future?
You know, Georgia has a room at my house, and you know, she's coming back this weekend, and she says, "Is my room ready?" And I said, "It will be." And Deja, you know, fun fact too, I bought a new house. We got a pool, and it was very common for the lock on the gate to open up, and then Deja just walk in, and you know, we would just hang out and have fun. You know, she would come over and play pool. You know, and those are relationships that you build, and they're not fake. And it's all about family. And, you know, what we're trying to do is build a family type atmosphere here. And those two kids, you know, embrace the whole situation. They both came here for their last year of collegiate athletics when they didn't have to. And they came in here and they set the tone for years to come. And like I said before, I'll forever be indebted to them and for what they did for this program. And the way that they rep, you know, Kentucky right now, it's unbelievable. You know, Deja just talks about Kentucky, Kentucky, Kentucky. Georgia, I think Georgia got reprimanded a little bit for wearing so much Kentucky gear around the Washington Mystics facility. They were like, okay, you're with the Mystics now, so you need to wear that. You know, but that just shows you how much they love their last year and really embraced BBN as BBN embraced them.
We've heard Asia Boone has gotten some work at point guard. Even though she spent a lot of her time at Liberty playing at the two. What's that adjustment been like for her?
You know what? She fought it in the beginning. Obviously, she played her first 2 years off the ball where she just really had to come off screens, catch, be ready to shoot. But I saw something in her, and I knew that we were going to need, you know, some point guard play to help Tony in that situation. And we felt like she could do it. And we wanted to, you know, have her go out and be the guinea pig, so to speak, knowing that that wasn't her natural position, that we could probably, you know, infuse that in her because she's such a great shooter. And to have her on the floor as much as we can, whether it's at the point or at the two, and able to shoot the basketball so well, surrounded by, you know, very talented players, she's going to get open opportunities. So we want to try to get her on the floor as much as possible, and she's really coming to her own the last couple weeks. She's really embracing the situation, knowing that that's not her primary position, but if she can help out in a pinch, you know, I think she's doing a tremendous job, and I'm very, very proud of her because it's not easy. It's not easy, number one, coming to a new school, a new system, then all of a sudden your coach is making you play in a different position. But she's embraced it, you know, exceptionally well, and I'm very proud of her.
You know, just from talking to her and watching her practice, Lexi Blue seems really, really confident heading into this season. How have you seen her game grow this offseason?
You know, Lexi's done a really good job, and obviously her freshman year was up and down, and you know, in a landscape where you have opportunities and you know you have the ability to move as you please. You know, she came back, she stuck it out, you know, and that shows the competitive fight that she has, and you know she's out on the floor, and you know obviously the talent level is continuing to rise, and she's got a battle, but she's doing her part, you know, and she's really improved improved since last year, and we're looking for her contributions, whatever they are, this coming year. But the main thing is that she's a confident young lady, and she goes out there and she battles whatever the circumstances are. And I'm very proud of her attitude and the way that she's really, attacked the whole situation.
We know Clara Strack's a pretty special player. We got to watch that a lot this last season. But what's she been working on this offseason to kind of elevate her game even more?
Man, Clara is she's a basketball junkie, and she is addicted to just trying to get better and better and better. She's never satisfied with where she is. She's constantly in conversation. Hey, can we work on this tomorrow? Can we do this? I want to work on that. And she's one of the hungriest players I've ever coached. And I've coached some WNBA players. I've coached top draft picks. I've coached All-Americans. I've coached Players of the Year. And her drive is right there with any of them. And she's the most versatile post player that I've ever coached in my life. And so when you have that combination, it just makes you as a coach so excited to be able to dive into it. And we're working on everything. I mean, post moves, yes. We're working on, face-up moves. We're working on her coming off ball screens, which is really unheard of for a post player. We've given her the opportunity and the leeway to, she grabs a rebound, you bring it. Because she can lead the fast break, and her decision making is, exceptional for a post player. And so what she doesn't have in physicality, she's a physical player, but we don't want her to engage in physicality all the time because it can wear her down. She's gonna allow her to bring out those physical post players and make them chase her while she's on the offensive end, because we can put her on the perimeter. And so, with this new age basketball, the way everything is going, you look at the WNBA, there's really not a low block player that's really one of the superstars. You look at Asia Wilson, she has perimeter skills. You look at all the Nafisa Collier, she's always on the perimeter and then going in. And so we kind of model what, Clara is going to do based off of the way that the WNBA are playing right now, or even Europe. And so I think she's going to have an exceptional year. We're excited for her. She's probably going to go through some growing pains, because and if anybody out there is mad at her for shooting a lot of threes, blame it on me. All right, because we're not worried about her percentage this year. We're worried about her makes. And if she can when she makes 3 in a game, we're pretty much unstoppable. And so we want her to learn how to shoot threes. And what I mean by that is, you can shoot threes all you want in practice, all right, but you're not really going to get good at it until you shoot them in the game. And she never shot them in high school. The most she ever shot was last year. And I just told her this year, I said, don't worry about your percentage. I said, I want you to be aggressive, because whether she's making them or almost making them, it's going to affect the defense, and they're going to have to atone for that. And so we want her to be aggressive in that manner.
Kaylin Carroll's grown literally since she originally committed,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Now, knowing that, do you play her, maybe on the perimeter more or inside more? Or how does that work? Now, she's getting literally taller.
Yeah, what we've done with her, we've tried to simplify things. She has the capabilities, the versatility to play multiple positions, but right now we just have her as a stretch 4. And we want her to learn that position. And then as the year continues, I'm sure that she'll learn, the pace, the different roles that the 3 and the 4 have to play. And but right now we want it to be simple for her, learn her defensive philosophies, catch, you shoot the basketball, be a part of the offense. And she's doing a really good job. It was a little shaky in the beginning, as it is for most or all freshmen, but she's getting better every day. And what I can see for her in the next month is her getting more comfortable. And, she's got the blueprint right in front of her. I tell her every day, I said, when you go out to the sideline, you shouldn't go look for your water bottle. You should look to see what Tiani's doing. You should look to see what Clara's doing. You should look to see what Amelia's doing. And you got to try to make yourself, part of that triplet group. What is it? What is it for?
Quad something.
Quad something.
Quad something. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to making it that. But she's
quadruplets. There you go.
Quadruplets. All right. But she's doing a tremendous job. Very, very proud of her. I'm very proud of her. Just understanding that she needs to continue to get better, and the way that she approaches practice every day.
You think about, I think about Georgia and Liz Kitley even got some pretty decent PT as freshmen. This isn't specific to Kaylin Carroll or Elsa Vadfors, but what do your freshmen have to do in order to get playing time in their freshman season?
They just have to adapt, and learn how to evolve into, a college player. All of them, I don't care what shoe circuit you play on. When you get out here, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
It's a totally different ball game. You're playing against grown women. You're no longer playing against people in your age group. You're playing against grown women, and the physicality of it. So just learning how to evolve and understand, get rid of some of those habits that you formed in high school that that only allows you to be as good as your talent. You got to be a little bit better. You have to think one step ahead, two steps ahead, and that's what seniors do at this level. So just continue to evolve, work hard, understand, take coaching, and become part of the unit, and that's how you really get your opportunities as a freshman.
Brought in a really strong portal class of Tony Morgan, Josie Gill, and Asia Boone. What was it about those three that you're like, okay, I got to get them here to Kentucky?
Handpicked for what we needed, what we wanted to grow as a unit. It's so funny, and this is all new to everyone, whether it's coaches, media, whoever. And so many people, they want to really just, jump on the teams that they get the sexy commits, that win the press conference. We don't want to win press conference. We want to win games.
Yeah.
And so what we do is, hey, it might be a kid out there in the portal that averaged 20 points a game, but it might not be a good fit. It might be disruptive to what we have going on. It might be disruptive to the development of a player that we have, that we've invested. So when we go out, we want to look for the right type player. And we felt like those three in particular were the right type players. We targeted them as soon as they hit the portal. And once we did, we started. I referenced it to speed dating, the portal. It's because you have to get to know players in 2-3 week span, and they're making their commitment. And so you try to do as much homework as you can, and all of them fit the bill at what we wanted, what we needed, and getting them, we felt like, okay, we elevated ourselves, and it's exactly what we needed for us to become better.
Looking ahead a little bit, what's the long-term plan for the center position? You think maybe like the portal's probably the route, or high school recruiting? Where do you think you go long-term?
You know what? The center position is at a premium right now, and obviously with the way that college basketball is evolving, it becomes a little bit more difficult to get that prize center, at a high school. You can kind of go into the portal, and there's somebody who's had some experience, and then you can build off of that experience and you can grow from it. But we still want the foundation to be from the high school level, so that we can pour energy and effort into it, and we want to see the light bulb come on. And you look at a player like a Clara Strack. She came in and she was supposed to sit behind an All-American for a year, but she, probably midway through her freshman year, we saw the light bulb come on, and it's shining brightly right now, and we're able to mold it like we really want to. So that will always be the way to go, but obviously you can't ignore the fact that the portal is there, and you can get some very talented players. But for us, if we have our preference, we're going to try to go and build from high school ranks, get players there, and then we'll supplement with the portal to make sure we're getting the pieces that we need.
Shifting gears a bit, the staff you have around you. Just talk about
best in the country.
Just talk about some of the Just talk about some of the unique skill sets and things that they bring to the table.
Tremendous team. And the way that they work together is phenomenal, and that's something that you covet in this day and age. I've had a lot of coaches call me and they say, well, how do you put a staff together? And that's the most important thing. And obviously you want to get trust, you want to get loyalty. We circle the wagons, and we understand, what's needed. We communicate at all times. But the biggest thing that I see with them is that there's competition, but it's healthy competition. It's not unhealthy competition. Unhealthy competition will get an assistant coach really locked in on his player, whether it's the right player or not, just for the glory of saying, I signed someone. We do a really good job of making sure that, okay, who's the best fit for Kentucky? And they really collaborate. They understand each other. They work extremely well together. They're like my old coach, Lefty Drizel, used to always say, we want to be a well-oiled machine. And that's what they are in that office. And they work well together. They understand me. They understand, my nuances, whether they're quirky or not. And I can turn my back and with the understanding that, I know the right thing is being done when they're together, because we all share the same philosophy. And it trickles down to the kids, because they understand that they can't be like, a kid with a mom and a dad. They'll play the mom against the dad to get what they want. They understand that we're all on the same page. And then you couple that with the fact that they're very, very talented. You look at Josh Peterson. what he's brought to us from his experiences with Miami and Pitt. And then obviously you look at Rad and you look at Lindsay and what they were able to help me do when we were in the ACC, when we went to the Final Four. Those experiences. Will does a tremendous job. He's a great X's and O's guys. Sierra does a tremendous job. Kendall Dillard. They all work extremely well together, and they're very well connected in the community, but also the basketball community. Rad does a tremendous job internationally. There are so many. We go on the road, and so many coaches come up to her and trying to get information about international recruiting. She's almost like the guru of international recruiting, and she's ours. She's loyal. She's with us, and they all have their special, unique qualities that they bring to the table, which makes for what I think is the best coaching staff in the country.
What is the biggest difference between the SEC and the ACC?
Yeah, style of play. It really is, and style of play is a little bit more physical here in the SEC. Not to say that some of the ACC teams are not physical. There's some ACC teams that are just downright physical. Just more here in the SEC. But I think that we as basketball coaches have a responsibility to put the right product out on the floor. Sometimes you see right now, and you got the WNBA shirt on, and what are they complaining about the most? It's physicality.
Right.
And it kind of muddies the game up. It makes the game,
Not as enjoyable
less
to watch.
watchable,
Yeah.
right? There's too much talent out there to allow everyone to just beat up on each other. So we're at a golden age for women's basketball. There are more eyes on the game than ever before. So I think it's our responsibility, whether it's us, the administrators who are making the rules, everyone to come together and let's put the product out there that's going to continue to make this sport grow. And I don't think anyone wants to see, people beating up on each other and bragging about the physicality. They want to see free-flowing basketball. They want to see the athleticism that's growing, that these young women are able to execute now. And we need that. We need that because I'm out here. This is my 24th year in women's basketball. Year one, they were nowhere near as athletic, nowhere near as skilled, nowhere near as good of a product that we're capable of putting out here now. And I just think that it's time for us to really, say, let's have free-flowing basketball where it's going to be very, very enjoyable. And if that happens, we're going to continue to grow this game. And I think you're going to see it really closing the gap on other sports.
Recruiting looks really different nowadays because of NIL, rev share, all these resources. How do you balance, okay, I need to go out and get elite talent. I don't want to overpay for this one kid.
We're still trying to figure it all out. We really are. I've had to put on my GM hat, which I've never had before. You're trying to build a team. While I'm coaching for the rest of my career, I always want to build a good program. Not just a good team. And so therefore you have to really start from the bottom and build it up and build the personality instead of like trying to get free agents every year. And they're out there. Everybody's pretty much on a 1-year contract, which I think is harder for the fans than it is the coaches. We're evolving, we're in it, we think about it every day, but the fans, they want to really grow with the players. They want to watch a Ron Howard, from a freshman year all the way up, to her senior year. They want to watch Clara Strack, who will have been here for 3 years. And they want to watch them grow. And we're still trying to figure out the difficulties of, okay, how do you approach a situation? There's so many unknowns out there. There are players out there, and there's handlers out there, and sometimes the numbers get skewed, and you don't know what's right, what's wrong, and sometimes you just have to stay on your principles and say, hey, this is what I think is the right situation for this player, and if we get her, fantastic, and if we don't, okay, then I have to be able to put my head on the pillow at night, knowing that I'm doing what's best for the University of Kentucky. So it's been a very challenging 18 months, more challenging than ever. I feel like I'm back in calculus class learning new formulas, and I wasn't good in calculus, but I'm trying to be better at this situation. But I think that we've handled it extremely well. Case in point, we've gotten off to a great start in recruiting and bringing in the players that we want. Recruiting continues to be wonderful, and we're just going to keep plugging away and just being ready to pivot at any turn with new rules and what they are. But it has definitely been a very challenging 18 months since I've come to the University of Kentucky, just because of the way everything has changed and evolved with NIL to rev share to portal.
Got a simple yes or no question, and I got a follow up for it. I'm going to assume with the NIL rev share, you feel really good about where the program is in that perspective, right?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I mean, it's just because it changes so drastically,
Yeah.
and I know we have tremendous leadership, and leadership that's staying ahead of everything. But it's just changing so drastically because there's so many entities that want a piece of the pie, and and you have football, which obviously everyone knows drives the vehicle, which is your athletic department. Here at the University of Kentucky, men's basketball is huge. Here at the University of Kentucky, volleyball is good. Here at the University of Kentucky, baseball is good. Here at the University of Kentucky, softball is good. All right. Here at the University of Kentucky, we want to be good. So there's just so many entities that deserve, a piece of the pie, that want a piece of the pie to make sure that they stay relevant in their sport. So I know we have good leadership. I know we have great leadership, but there's just so many different changes that you never know what it is from day to day.
My follow-up with that was just kind of speak on how supportive Mitch Barnhart and the administration have been for your program.
Well, part of the reason that I came here was because I felt like the SEC and the leadership here at Kentucky would have been ahead of the game. And as far as what was coming down the pipe, whether it was NIL, which we thought it was at the time, which has transformed to rev share, and I wanted to make sure I was going to align myself with a program, with a conference that was going to enable me to be the best that I could be, and that was a big lure coming here, and so we're operating off of that premise that we're going to be one of the elite programs, and obviously knowing that there's change all around, and we're just ready to pivot as the time comes, but it's a trying time for everyone, and I think our leadership has done a really good job of staying ahead of it, obviously with all the announcements that they've come up with in the last couple months. It just makes you excited that you can continue to go out and do your job, and it's you're seeing a lot in my profession where there are some very prominent coaches who have gotten out and retired, and I think the pendulum has shifted a little bit where some programs really went off a tradition of what they've done in the last 20 years. Now you're going to see coaches really try to align themselves with athletic programs who are really going to put women's basketball at the forefront now and continue that growth. And so it's going to be probably a different landscape next 5-10 years of not only college athletics but women's basketball. But you just got to be ready to pivot.
We'll end with this. When the day comes that Georgia Amore wants to get into coaching, because she's been very vocal about it.
Yeah.
You bringing her home to Kentucky?
Absolutely. She last year was so good for me and her, our relationship, and obviously we're as close as a coach and a player can be. But last year I treated her differently. I treated her more like a coach. I brought her into some of the meetings that I would have. I really relied on her knowledge, of the game and what she saw out on the floor, and we had so many of those conversations, which really helped strengthen our basketball relationship. And even to this day, her injury, we have to try to find a silver lining to her injury, and what we were able to do. I learned more about the WNBA and the coverages, the terminology, how they operate, because we would talk daily, and she would talk to me about how it was there, and we've been able to use some of that information as we develop our program, and so it's been tremendous, and no question the way her brain works, I totally get it. She's a coach in training. I think that what she was able to do this year with the Mystics, they put her in that same role where they kept her engaged in everything that was going on. So she watched it. She took notes. I think the coaches relied on her for some of her expertise, and she stayed sharp throughout this year. And we grew, and that's kind of how we stayed connected throughout the whole summer. talking about basketball on a different level. And so just listening to her talk, there's no question when she's ready to hang up the sneakers, she's going to be a coach, and I think she's going to be a terrific coach.
Kenny, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. There we go. Sweet. Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 39 of the Memorial Memo. As always, like, comment, subscribe to the KSR YouTube channel. Again, if you like this video, you're going to like the rest of them we put out. It's only up from here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Subscribe. Our guy Steven behind the camera does so much awesome work. Not just for me, but men's basketball, football. Well, football, you know. But, you know, everything, right? I mean, great job on the YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all those wonderful things. Help us get to, you know, we're at 50K. Get us to 100. Get us to God knows what number. Get us there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next time.